You ever walk into a room thinking this is it? This is the day everything changes only to realize halfway through that you've just stepped into an ambush? Yeah, that was me. That morning in downtown Chicago, wearing my favorite emerald blazer, carrying 3 months worth of work that I thought would finally get me that promotion. And 5 minutes later, someone basically told me my fat black face didn't fit the company's brand. It started like any other Tuesday, gray November sky, cold wind slicing between the towers, the smell of burnt coffee drifting from the lobby cafe. I remember stepping out of the elevator onto the 42nd floor, past the marble lobby of Henderson and Company. Marketing telling myself, just get through today, Kayla, one more day. Brad at reception gave me that warm smile, the kind you can only get from a 60-something man who's seen too much office drama to be surprised by anything. We talked about his grandson's soccer championship. I picked up the Patterson campaign files, and for a brief moment, I felt steady. Then, of course, Janet Murphy had to ruin it. Office Queen Bee, platinum hair, expensive navy dress, smile like a blade. She glanced up her desk and let out one of those comments that sounds like small talk, but lands like a gut punch. Well, someone's looking confident today. If you've ever had a coworker who could weaponize a compliment, you know exactly the tone. I kept walking rule number 1 in corporate survival: don't give the vultures fresh meat. What I didn't know was that 2 floors above me, my husband Logan was buttoning up his suit for his first day as CEO of this very company. Yet twist number 1, right there. He didn't tell me. Not because he didn't want me to know, but because he wanted to surprise me over dinner. We were both walking into the most important day of our careers, neither of us knowing the storm brewing between us. I've been building the Patterson campaign for months, the youth mentorship program, real photos of real kids, the kind of authentic storytelling that doesn't just sell an idea, it sells hope. My metrics were off the charts. Community engagement up 60%, the client ready to expand before the first run was even over. So when the board's secretary called, asking me to present to them at 10:15, my heart jumped. This could be at the creative director position I'd been chasing for 2 years. I walked into that long mahogany conference room like it was my shot at the big leagues. They let me talk for maybe 2 minutes before the concern started. Walter Founder's son, mid-50s, face like he'd been born with a permanent smirk, slid my campaign materials across the table and said the imagery was too diverse for broader market appeal. Rebecca, the chairwoman, chimed in about aspirational branding and executive bearing. You know what those words mean when you're the only black woman in the room. I pushed back calmly, professionally showing them the data, the engagement rates, the client praise. They smiled like I was a kid who made a nice art project, then suggested I'd be better utilized in a research role. No client contact, no creative control, no future. And I swear, I felt the floor tilt under me. 2 floors up, Logan was in his first executive meeting, hearing the exact same coded language, only this time they were saying my name. Cultural alignment issues. Particular perspective. By lunch, I was sitting at my desk staring at the demotion offer, thinking maybe I should just take it survive when the Patterson Foundation's director called to say they loved my work and wanted to hire me directly as a consultant. That was twist number 2. For the first time that day, I felt air in my lungs again. That night at home, I told Logan about the demotion. He told me he was the new CEO. We just stared at each other across the dinner table, realizing the impossible bind we were in. If he promoted me, people would call it nepotism. If he didn't, I'd be buried in the basement. But Logan's not built to watch injustice happen quietly. The next morning, he called an emergency board meeting. I wasn't there, but later he told me every detail, how he laid out the advancement charts, showing white employees getting promoted to client roles while people of color got shuffled to support work, how he asked them to define executive bearing, until they basically admitted it meant white and thin. When they fired him on the spot, he didn't flinch. Turns out he'd been recording the whole meeting. Illinois is a one-party consent state, you do the math. By noon, my resignation letter was in, the Patterson Foundation contract signed, and the Chicago Tribune was running a front-page story. CEO fired after exposing discrimination. The recording went public. Clients started bailing on Henderson. Employees they'd sidelined for years, Nicole, Marcus, and others suddenly had offers from competitors. 6 months later, Logan and I were both working at the Patterson Foundation. He was building partnerships, I was leading campaigns, and together we were proving that authentic marketing wasn't niche, it was just better. But here's the thing, Henderson and Company is still standing. They replaced Walter, rewrote their policies, hired more diverse staff, at least on paper. Some people call that progress. Me? I think it's survival instinct. I still walk past their building, sometimes on my way to meetings. Sometimes I see Janet through the glass, still in her corner seat, still wearing that Blade smile. And I wonder if she ever thinks about the day she told me I didn't fit. I wonder if she's noticed that the industry is changing without her permission. And I wonder maybe this is the real question for you, if change that comes from fear of exposure is as real or as lasting as change that comes from actually believing in what's right. Picture this. Warm May evening, rooftop fundraiser in the West Loop. Logan's in a navy suit. I'm in a gold dress that catches the light just so, and around us are kids from the mentorship program whose faces were on my very first Patterson campaign. They're laughing, networking, dreaming out loud. Down below, the city hums cars, trains, thousands of other lives moving forward. And up here, I realize we didn't just survive. We built something better. Not perfect, but better.